Today is Tuesday, May 19th, 2020, and this is ELA Mini Lesson number 36, Chapter Predictions and Summaries. In our lesson yesterday, we talked about how we could make a prediction and summarize after we read a story. We are going to be practicing the same strategies, but we're going to use a second grade favorite character. We're going to be doing a Junie B. Jones novel study. So every day we're going to read a chapter, going to make predictions before we read, summarize after we read, and then make a prediction for the next chapter of the book. You're going to need 2 packets for our work with Junie B. Jones. You're going to need your packet with your daily graphic organizer. So go ahead and open up to Tuesday, May 19th. And scroll down until we get to the Summarize graphic organizer, and also get your Junie B. Jones packet and open up to the first page. Today we are going to be reading chapter 1. Make sure you don't read ahead. I know it can be tempting because you want to know what happens to the character, but we're going to be coming back to this book every day, and if you read ahead, you won't be able to make a prediction. So do your best to stay with us when you're reading. Make sure you're only reading 1 chapter each day, and at the top of the page, it will say which chapter to read on which day. So the first thing we're going to do today is make some predictions about chapter 1. Then you'll listen to me read chapter 1. Read along with me in your copy of Junie B. Jones and Her Big Fat Mouth, and then you'll summarize chapter 1. The last thing we'll do is make a prediction for the next chapter based on what happened in the first chapter. Let's think about some strategies. Let's think about some strategies for making predictions. Think about the title. The title is Junie B. Jones and Her Big Fat Mouth. Think about what that could mean. Look at the cover and notice the illustrations. We can combine this with the title. The title of the text is Junie B. Jones and Her Big Fat Mouth. Look at her. She's covering her mouth and looking surprised. She's covering her mouth because Junie B. Jones has a bad habit of saying things that she should have kept as private thoughts. If you've read every other Junie B. Jones books before, think about the character. What are some things that Junie B. Jones usually does? What are some examples that you already know? Things that she says that she shouldn't say. So think about the characters. These are all details you can use to predict what might happen in this text. Let's turn back to our graphic organizer and make some predictions. Another thing you can use when you're making predictions, make a prediction based on the title of the chapter. So for example, the chapter that we're going to read today, chapter 1, is titled Punishments. We can use that to help us predict what we think is going to happen in chapter 1. So the first thing we need to do, make a prediction. What do you think is going to happen in chapter 1 of Junie B. Jones and Her Big Fat Mouth? Think about the title. Think about that illustration you saw on the front cover. Think about the title of the chapter, Punishment. Go ahead and pause the video to write your prediction for chapter 1. Make sure you're adding a detail about a character and an event that you think might happen. When you're ready, hit play again to listen to the story. We are going to be reading Junie B. Jones and Her Big Fat Mouth. Today we're reading Chapter 1, Punishment. I want you to follow along in your own copy of the text. Punishment. My name is Junie B. Jones. The B stands for Beatrice, except I don't like Beatrice. I just like B, and that's all. I go to kindergarten. My room is named Room 9. There are lots of rules in that place, like no shouting and no running in the hall and no butting the other children in the stomach with your head. My teacher's name is Mrs. She has another name too, but I just like Mrs., and that's all. Last week, Mrs. clapped her loud hands together, then she made an announcement to us. An announcement is the school word for telling us something very important. Boys and girls, may I have your attention, please? She said. Today is going to be a special day in Room 9. We're going to be talking about different careers you can have when you grow up. Yeah, only guess what? I said. I never even heard of that dumb word careers before, and so I won't know what the heck we're talking about. Mrs. made squinty eyes at me. A career is a job, Junie B., she said, and please raise your hand before you speak. Then Mrs. talked some more about careers, and she said Monday was going to be called Job Day, and everybody in Room 9 would come to school dressed up like what kind of job they wanted to be. After that, Room 9 was very excited, except for not me, 'cause I had a big problem, that's why. Yeah, only guess what? I said. I don't know what I want to be when I grow up, and so that means I can't come to school on Monday, and now I'll probably flunk kindergarten. Hooray! Shouted a mean boy named Jim. I made a fist at him. How'd you like a knuckle sandwich, you big fat Jim? Shouted right back. Mrs. came over to my table. She bended down next to me. Please, Junie B., you simply must try to control yourself better in class. We've talked about this before. Remember? Yes, I said nicely. Only I hate that dumb guy. Just then, my bestest friend Lucille, who sits next to me, stood up and fluffed her ruffly dress. I always control myself, don't I, teacher? She said. That's because my Nana taught me to act like a little lady, and so Junie B. Jones should act more like me. I made a growly face at her. I do act like a little lady, you dumb bunny, Lucille, and don't say that again, or I'll knock you on your can. Mrs. did a frown at me. Just kidding, I said very quick. Except for Mrs. kept on frowning, and then she gave me punishment. Punishment is the school word for sitting at a big table all by yourself. Everybody keeps on staring at you. It makes you feel like P.U. That's how come I put my head down on the table and I covered it up with my arms. Because punishment takes the friendly right out of you. And so at recess, I didn't speak to Lucille, and I didn't speak to my other bestest friend named Grace either. I just sat down in the grass all by myself. And I watched janitor paint the litter cans. And I played with a stick and an ant, and that's all. I hate Room 9, I said, very grumpily. Except for then, I saw something very wonderful in the grass, and its name was 2 cherry lifesavers. Hey, I love those guys, I said. Then I quick picked one up, and I blowed off the germs, and I put it right in my mouth. Wait, don't do that, shouted a loud voice at me. Spit that out right now. I turned my head. It was Janitor. He was running at me speedy quick. His jingly keys were jangling all over the place. Spit that out, I said, he yelled again. And so then I spit the cherry lifesaver on the ground, 'cause the guy was scaring me, that's why. Janitor bended down next to me. I didn't mean to frighten you, sis, he said, but I spotted a bunch of dirty candy in the grass, and I was going to clean it up when I finished painting. He looked serious at me. Don't you ever eat anything you find on the ground. Don't you hear? Not ever. But I blowed off the germs, I told him. Janitor shook his head. You can't blow germs off, he said. Eating things that you find on the ground is very, very dangerous. Then Janitor picked up the dangerous candy. Now run along and play, he said. I did a big sigh. Yeah, only I can't, I said, because I shot off my big fat mouth in kindergarten. Then I got punishment. Now I hate my bestest friend Lucille. Janitor smiled a little bit, sad. Life is hard sometimes, isn't it, sis? He said. I bobbed my head up and down. Yes, I said, life is PU. Then Janitor patted my head and he walked away. And so, guess what? I just like Janitor, and that's all. That is the end of chapter 1. So go ahead, go back to your graphic organizer. We already filled out your predictions for chapter 1. Now we want to write a summary of the chapter 1. We can think about some summarizing strategies that we've already learned. Some strategies we can use for summarizing include somebody wanted, but so, then. And we can also do a version of the what and so what. Think about what a character wanted or an important event, and then explain why it was important or meaningful. You can also do a 5-finger retell. Summarize what's most important by talking about the character, setting, beginning, middle, and end. Remember, in a summary, we're not saying everything that happened, but just the big ideas. So I'm going to write a reminder. Focus on the big details. So pick the summarizing strategy that you want to try out. Go ahead and summarize what the first chapter was about. Then hit the pause button while you wait. Now you're going to make some predictions about what you think will happen in chapter 2. Think about strategies we have for predicting. Think about the title. Are there any illustrations that will help you? Think about the characters. What do you know about Junie B. Jones? And you can use the characterization strategy, STEAL, to help you think about what do you know about Junie B. What is she like as a character? Were there any important events that happened in chapter 1 that give you a clue to what might happen in the next chapter? Chapter 2 is called The Cop and Dr. Smiley. Think about what we learned from the first chapter. What was the class discussing in the beginning of the story? They were discussing careers and having a presentation about different careers. What might that have to do with chapter 2 called The Cop and Dr. Smiley? Think about if the whole text is called Junie B. Jones and her big fat mouth, what might she get in trouble for saying in chapter 2? Go ahead and press pause while you make predictions for chapter 2. Remember, we're not going to read chapter 2 today. We'll come back to that tomorrow. For today's additional practice, you're going to complete this sheet on making predictions called Will He Be All Right? You're going to use story details to guess what will happen next. So first, you're going to read the passage about Father and Baby Eagle. Then color the rock to show what you think happened next. Then support your answer. Why did you choose this answer? And find a sentence in the story that gives you a hint. You've got an unscrambling challenge, thinking about how baby eagle felt and how father eagle felt. And your last assignment today, your reading log and your reflection sheet. For your reading log today, read a fictional story and write a letter to the main character to give him or her advice to solve the problem in the story.